So this is my social distancing ITX build. I use this computer for the garage a lot. I mean, if I'm working on my cars or anything else, I mean, this is my go-to. It's better than having a laptop in the sense that it fits right over here in the corner. It's not as delicate, it's not as bulky. I just kind of like this thing. It's an old Antec case that I got that's got its lovely scratches. And the reason why I called it the social distancing ITX build is because, well, from 6 feet away, looks good, but then when you get up close, you can look at some of my cuts are just not the best, and I just cut this hole in it to put this oversized fan in this. But this thing has worked great, so I've quite enjoyed it. So this is the Intel i7. It's a 2600. I think I got 8 gigs of DDR3 memory. I don't know too much about the specs, if I'm being honest with you. I just kind of use it just for research and guides. So I think I need to upgrade it. I mean, the Intel i7 2600 has served me great, but I got some other hardware that just kind of came in, and I just want to throw it in. And not to mention that I do want to run Windows 11 on this. Let's go through this build process, put Windows 11 in there, and let's see how this comes out. So the sacrifice for today, I actually picked up a bunch of these HP Elite Desk. I think this is the 800 G1. Yeah, this is the 800 G1. I got them for like $35 a pop, which was great. And they came with i7 4th gens, which is still a pretty good CPU. I had 8 gigs of DDR3, and I've kind of cannibalized this. I took the hard drive out, used the memory in a different project, another build that I flipped, and I still have the CPU over here. So I'm actually going to pop the CPU into this one, but this is an older chipset, so I had to get on the old eBay, and I picked up one of these. This ITX motherboard, and I'll take it out the bag. It's the Asus H81i Plus, and I got this for like $30. And the cool thing about it is it comes with the back plate, which is kind of nice. I like that a lot. So let's get to dissecting, and let's pop this in, pop all this good stuff in there, and let's see how this turns out. Let's go ahead and open this one up. I don't remember how to do it, if I'm honest with you. We're just gonna pry it and pull it until everything comes out. Remember if it went forward, backwards? Nope. Oh yeah, it just pops right off. Nice. And there we go. As you can see, there's a lot going on in here, just a lot of wires, and that's just the nature of ITX. So let's get this solid state drive out. If you remember this, I'll post a link to this video. I actually snapped this connector off and was able to glue it back on. So tip for anybody who's interested. And honestly, I really need to repurpose this 500 gig SSD. It's really overkill for what I do for this computer. So that's gonna go in another build. Just kind of pull out all these wires, because we're changing out the motherboard, CPU. We're going to reuse the memory because the Intel 4th gen uses DDR3, which is nice. Well, kind of nice because I need DDR3, but it's nice in the sense that at least I have memory. And another reason why I'm upgrading this is because the CMOS battery, either the connector is bad or there's something else bad. This thing just keeps forgetting the BIOS all the time, all my settings. So I probably need to resolder a new one of these. This connector is a little loose, and actually now that I look at it, it looks like it broke off. So I need to resolder it, but I don't really feel like messing with it. I'll probably use this for another junk project I could come up with. Maybe some experiments. All right, I think that's everything. This should come out. It's pretty tight. Let's see if this gives me a little more real estate. I think that made things worse. Yep, definitely did. All right, let's try it this way. This thing really doesn't want to come out. All right. And there we go. That's always the fun of ITX. So the cool thing with this case is this is actually the whole power supply, and you just get a power brick that it came with a power brick. So this was actually a pretty cool case. Actually, what I'm gonna do is, because, well, it makes no sense. They have the input for the audio like right over here, which is okay, but consider how small this is. If I need to plug it in, I could just do it through the back. So I'm actually going to take that out. And the hopes is less wires, just kind of make this a little easier. And I'm sure this is good to have for something. Alright, I am going to keep the front USB because it gives me 4, and that's actually nice to have. Let's see if there's any other wires we could kind of get rid of. Not really. So if you look over here, like the SATA, the Molex and everything, it's all piggybacked into this one little connector over here, so I'm not going to be able to get rid of any extra wires, so oh well on that. But at least we were to get rid of something, and that's one less thing to tuck away. So alright, let's go to our board. Yellow. Alright, so this is the H81. Pretty nice. I like Asus board. I think this one was a ASRock, and this is the H61, so yeah, that's not the end of that board. I might resolder that board and do something else with it. DisplayPort, VGA, HDMI, very nice. Our USB 3, which is pretty cool because this one didn't have it, so at least I have that in the back. And it makes a huge difference when you're transferring files, trust me, and even installing Windows, if you're using a USB 3 versus USB 2. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Nothing fancy on that. Let's go ahead and let's get our CPU in. So now when I get these motherboards and everything, the best way to do it, I'm just going to pop this in the case just because, well, I'm pretty confident this works. But ideally, when you get new stuff, you should go ahead and actually test it on the motherboard box. Just have your power supply and just test everything outside of the case. It saves you a lot of time and headache, especially if you're doing water cooling or if you have a lot of components, AIOs and everything. Just test it. I usually keep a stock Intel and AMD CPU cooler. I always keep one handy and available just for testing purposes when I have to bench test the motherboard, or I have a customer that comes in with a computer issue and we just got to take everything apart. That's honestly the best way to do it, whether it's used, new, or you're not sure. Just do it that way and then put your computer together. So alright, CPU's in. Looks very nice and pretty. Let's take our memory. Now what I got to do is I got to take this cooler off this other board, which I got to remember how it comes off, and I don't really remember how. Maybe that way. Let's pop this one in right over here like so. Really no orientation to this cooler. Okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to add the perfect amount of thermal paste. I mean, this is perfect right here. No better. The perfect amount of thermal paste. Alright. Alright, let's put in our rear I/O cover. Perfect. Now we get the fun part of sliding all this in. And the best way I found to do it is just to kind of tuck everything out and just kind of bend these wires. Not too much where you cause some damage, but just enough to allow me to slide this in. Alright. Maybe it goes in this way. Actually went in a lot better than I thought. Alright, so these things drive me crazy. And you don't see them in a lot of these newer boards, but they kind of apply pressure on the motherboard. And it's kind of giving me a hard time sliding that port to get into it. So this is what I typically do. You can bend them all the way up, or you could just cut them like this. Hopefully I have a better cutting device than me. There we go. Alright. These can stay bent up over here because they're actually working flush. Actually, yeah, that will work. Alright, that's better. A little bent right there, but that's fine. So now it should clear. All right, let's try to get that right back in there. Yeah, that was a lot easier. As you can see. Perfect. All right, that worked out pretty good. A little cumbersome, but fine to say the least. Let's go ahead and plug all this junk in. And I say junk as well. It's a lot of wires. Ruh-roh. So it appears I can't use this cooler. And primarily because, well, I cut the hole for the other motherboard, so that kind of stinks. It's not the end of the world. I think I could get away with using the Intel stock cooler. Like I said, I keep a bunch of these lying around. They work good. They have PWM. And this is really not a high-end system. I just kind of like the whole RGB thing in the background, so... Oh well, out with this, and let's put the other cooler in. Alright, so that's back together. So now, the next issue I'm running into is my SSD. I'm actually going from this 500 gig to this 256 gig Samsung. And unlike the other board, because I guess the other board just had a different layout, mostly. I don't really have too many good mounting options for this SSD. And that's just the nature of, well, kind of piecemealing things together that weren't meant to be, to say the least. Maybe if I could do it this way. Yep, that's probably going to be the way I do it. And just kind of tuck it right over here. It's not the best looking. It's definitely not. And, but it's going to work. It's going to work. So let me play with this off camera and see if I could come up with something that looks somewhat decent than this. Because 6 foot distance just became like 100 feet now. So, yeah. I have to make this work until I get another ITX case or just come up with an idea. Unfortunately, with this 4th gen, it doesn't have an M.2, which really would have been nice because then I wouldn't have to worry about this. But, I mean, that's part of the whole budget hustle. Yes, this doesn't look the prettiest, but the fan clears, the memory clears, nothing is touching. And like I said, this just kind of sits in the corner and only gets used for garage junk. So, now to the next fun part. Let's go ahead and let's install Windows 11. So this is a version of Windows 11. It's been modified so you can install it in older computers and not have to worry about that whole TPM thing. So as far as where I got it from and all that stuff, I mean, there are tons of places online where you could download them. There's so many guides that show you how to do it and all that stuff. If you want an in-depth video, comment down below. If we get enough interest, I'll actually do a video on how I do it. So I got that in. Let's get this thing booted up and let's get this thing installed and see if it works. Alright, so as you can see, we're still on our little ITX build, and we got our Windows 11 going. So let's go ahead, let's click all these settings. Alright, so we got Windows 10 installed. So let's go ahead and show you guys the specs so you can actually see that it is working on an Intel 4th gen. Alright, so as you can see, Intel i7 4770, Windows 11 Pro. And it is working fine. I'm actually able to do all the updates, have no issues with it, and a lot of it is just kind of doing a whole lot of backdoor stuff, trickery, just to kind of defeat that whole TPM thing. So to wrap up this video, yeah, this is kind of ugly, and the other way just looks so much better, but I needed to upgrade it. That i7 2nd gen worked great, but that motherboard just started acting up, and considering I had that CPU lying around and also the motherboard only cost $30 to put it in there, I figured why not. So As far as Windows 11, somebody asked why go to Windows 11. Some people say that Windows 11 just is garbage or doesn't work good. I use it on my main rig. I haven't had any issues with it. Sometimes you get a little stability issues, but nothing to really write home about. And honestly, I mean, inevitably, we're just all going to have to upgrade to the newest operating system eventually. So I figure I might as well put it in this one. Just show you guys that you can actually use Windows 11 on older hardware. As far as the longevity of it, I'm not sure. I mean, I'm sure Microsoft will come up with some way to say, hey, you did some backdoor action and you can't upgrade it and you can't do that and we're going to just lock you out. So that's to be determined. Hopefully they won't do it, but we'll find out. So thanks for watching. Hope you found this video somewhat entertaining. Just decided to randomly record and we'll see what we come up with next.